check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. So, I guess this video requires a little setup. So, I like spooky shit. I love horror movies. I like cryptids. I like all that weird shit, you know. Anything supernatural or freaky or, you know, terrifying, all that. I like it. I love it. And I like found footage movies especially. Found footage is my favorite subgenre of horror, and I love it because it really bleeds the edges of fiction and reality in a way that I find very appealing. Now, the problem is most found footage movies are not very good, and a lot of them, I think, don't take advantage of the medium properly. I feel like they don't lean enough into being real. They're a little too willing to admit to being fake. So, I especially like found footage stuff that is just on the internet, just out on YouTube for you to find. But finding it can be difficult, and I don't want to spend that much time finding it. So I'm subscribed to a handful of channels that are like, you know, top 5 worst fucking aliens caught on tape, top 10 fucking cryptids that are in your mom's bedroom at night, shit like that. You know, like the Burger King foot lettuce dude, shit like that. I love it. Not really. Most of it's garbage. I find most of it fucking annoying as all hell. But there's one, like top 5 best, whose delivery was pretty good, and the videos that he found I thought were pretty good. So I subscribed to this dude, and then I completely forgot about it. I don't go to my subscription tabs on YouTube. I don't go to my subscription tab on YouTube. I just go to the homepage, which recommends me videos, and I just go through that. So there are dudes I'm subscribed to who I haven't seen videos from in years because their videos aren't being recommended to me by YouTube. I only go back to them when I remember them at some point and shit like that. So I forgot about this. But the other day I was bored. YouTube wasn't giving me anything except cocktail videos because that's what I was watching. And I go to my subscription tabs and I see this video. 10 dinosaurs caught on camera in real life. Now, most of you probably know that dinosaurs went extinct before cameras came about, before humans came about, before primates came about. So this video is pretty much bullshit, right? Like, there's no question about this. And for someone who likes this sort of stuff because you can kind of accept it as real, or at least that maybe there's like, you can suspend your disbelief a little further and sort of pretend, this completely shatters it, goes over the line, and this is complete stupidity. There are a list of things that we sort of accept as real, despite no evidence to it. At the top of that list is like God, because God has woven into it faith. You don't have any evidence because you have to believe in it without evidence. That's the only way it works. You're not allowed to have evidence for God. Okay, whatever. Then there's stuff like ghosts, which are like ethereal and weird, and they don't play by the rules. So, like, maybe there is evidence for them you could think of, but they don't leave a whole lot of evidence, which is why you can't find any. Then there's cryptids, which are like, you know, one-offs. They're mutants. They're weird animals that shouldn't be around, but kind of just are against whatever, and we just sort of glimpse them. And yeah, there's evidence for them, but it gets lost and shit and whatever. Okay. But then there's stuff like this, where these are real animals that we know existed at one point, and people pretend that they might still exist today. This is stupid. The only type of person who actually believes this shit has to be ignorant of the world around them, if not willfully or not. This is complete nonsense. It's asinine. It's stupid. And worst off, it's not even particularly entertaining. And that's why I wanted to make this video talking a bunch of shit about it. So, without further ado, 10 dinosaurs caught on camera.
Dinosaurs have been dead for millions of years. Or are they?
They are. They in fact are.
Thousands of people around the world continually report dinosaur sightings, but are any of them real?
This is a drastic overstatement. Because there are 10 clips in this video. Only like half of them are supposedly of dinosaurs. It's more like dozens of people, most of whom are meth addicts.
Are any of them illusions? Are any of them just from Jurassic Park? Today we're going to be looking at 10 dinosaurs caught on camera. Number 1 is actually pretty convincing, so watch out for that one.
Yeah, watch out for the one that's actually convincing. The rest of these, bullshit.
Number 10. A pterosaur in China. Pterosaurs are winged flying dinosaurs that ruled the skies for 60 million years, before finally going extinct along with the rest of the dinosaurs. So, is it possible that a pterosaur or even a colony of pterosaurs survived extinction and now inhabit the untouched regions of China?
No, that makes no sense. Sometimes people like to pull this argument with like deep sea life. Because logically, the asteroid that destroyed the dinosaurs and caused, like, pretty much a nuclear winter and fucked up the climate for hundreds of thousands of years would not affect the depths of the ocean. That kind of makes sense. Birds and aerofauna, fauna of the air, that's not a real term, but I'm using it right now, would logically be the most sensitive to those things. So if an asteroid hits and fucks up the air so you can't breathe it, and makes it so that storms are constant, never ending, wouldn't the pterosaurs be the first ones to get fucked up and die out? Why would they survive in a tiny colony? Here's the other thing. Those types of animals would be the most visible. They would be the hardest to not see. We would always see them, because if you look up, there's next to nothing in the way. Maybe the argument here is that in China, you can't look up because of the smog. But, you know, that smog hasn't always been there. At some point, China as a country had breathable air. And at that point, you would have been able to see these pterosaurs hiding in plain sight.
If this clip is to be believed, then the answer is a definite yes. This video was first uploaded to Amazing Mysteries Video's YouTube channel in 2014. This simple short clip shows a pterosaur flying through the sky and was supposedly filmed in 1973 by a military group near the city of Yantai, China.
Alright, here's how we know this is bullshit. One, this is zoomed in super far. Why would anyone be filming here? Logically, they'd be filming something else. What else were they filming? Where in China is this? Are there landmarks or something? Where is this? Here's the other thing.
The video is short and the quality of
here's how I know this is fake. This is a CG model that has been filtered in some way to sort of like distort it a little bit. The reason I know that, and this is actually a little difficult, because by the time you see this from me, one, I have, blown up the YouTube video to full screen. And two, I'm processing it when I record it. I'm processing it when I export the edited video. And I'm processing it again when I upload it to YouTube. But if you go to the top 5 version of the video, you can see there's just too much detail. Videos that look like this, all grainy and shit, they look like this because the video files are being corrupted, and the blocks that make up the video image are not properly tuned anymore. So they start to distort, and they start to be the wrong color, or they start to be off, or whatever. The problem with this is that you can tell that that is above the image. The image behind it is still too fluid moving. There's too much detail there. So it's clearly a filter over the file and not the natural corruption of data as it goes through multiple iterations.
Very grainy, but it does show the unmistakable outline of some huge winged creature. as well as a distinct crest on its head.
You can kind of see what I'm talking about in the motion of the wings. There's too much depth here for a file that's supposed to be this corrupted. Especially a file that would have been in a shitty camera from China in the 70s.
I mean, I don't know about the rest of you, but this actually looks like an actual pterosaur right here.
Doesn't. I guess it does actually look like an actual pterosaur, because you can look at it and be like, oh, it looks like a pterodactyl. That doesn't mean it is one, though, because it's fake.
Some people have even speculated that the winged creature was a tapeyara, a species of pterosaur that only lived in Brazil. So do pterosaurs still...
Why would it be in China, then?
...regularly take flight in the skies above China? Yeah, that's up for you to decide.
I hate that shit. Every fucking conspiracy thing does this, where they clearly are leaning toward one side, and then they'll be like, you decide. It gives you this false feeling that, like, you are participating in this knowledge, you are adding to it by coming to the conclusion. You're not. You're still being led astray.
Number 9. A mammoth in Siberia. Okay, not a dinosaur, though woolly mammoths are also prehistoric creatures that fascinate us to this very day.
I guess that depends on your definition of prehistoric. I guess, yeah, they predate, like, modern civilization, but humans lived alongside woolly mammoths, so I don't know. I guess that is technically prehistoric, but it kind of seems to go against the spirit of a video like this.
In fact, certain scientists are desperately trying to bring this extinct creature back into existence. But what if they don't have to? What if all they needed to do was take a trip down to Siberia and find and perhaps even capture one? First appearing in 2012, this grainy footage first surfaced and claims to be showing evidence that the woolly mammoth still exists out in the frozen wilderness of Siberia.
Yeah, this is a bear with a fish in its mouth.
The huge animal, having the silhouette of a hairy elephant, is seen crossing a frozen river.
You can see there's, like, this divot where the tip of the trunk, like, between where the snout of the bear, I mean, it's right here. See this? This is supposed to be one solid structure, and when the video is minimized, it looks a little more like that. But when you expand it like this, you can clearly see that the trunk is way thinner than the rest of the body. It's not proportionate. It's a bear holding a fish.
While woolly mammoths mostly disappeared around 10,000 years ago, several isolated populations managed to survive until as recently as 4,000 years ago. They coexisted with early humans who hunted them for food as well as used their bones and tusks for tools and art. Is it possible that some of these late survivors somehow managed to avoid human detection and thrive out in that frozen wilderness?
No.
Well, non-believers argue that the video is so grainy that it can't be considered actual proof, and argue that it might as well just be a bear clutching a fish in its jaws.
No, not that it is that. It is that. I didn't catch this the first time. This is a bear holding a fish in its jaw. It's like holding the fish from, like, its tail or something. It might as well just be... No, that's what it is. They're not saying, like, it might as well be this ludicrous thing. That's the reasonable thing for this to be, is a bear holding a fish. Because there are bears in Siberia that hunt fish in Siberia.
Either way, up for you to decide.
Up for you to decide.
Number 8. The Ancient River Monster. Lake and river monsters have always been thought to be surviving remnants of our prehistoric past. From Nessie to Ogopogo, these monsters are always thought to be a species of plesiosaur that somehow survived extinction.
What does this fucking footage have to do with plesiosaurs?
The video you're seeing was uploaded to Sea Monsters Video's YouTube channel in 2008. It shows what many believe may be some type of prehistoric marine lizard that has a 3-pronged tail. While some say that the creature in the video is just a seal, the video makes it very clear that it is way larger than any seal.
I mean, I don't believe it's a seal. Usually, like, mammals like this don't have, like, these long snake bodies. I've heard some people reference that this is a manatee or something, but manatees aren't that mobile. I don't know if you've ever seen a manatee. They're fat. They're not very good at, like, bending, like most fat things, including me. This is probably just straight up fake. On the notion of, like, lake monsters are pretty much impossible. because in order to sustain a population, you need to have a set amount of a particular species. And it's way higher than any lake could sustain without one being caught. It's not a dozen or 2 dozen. It's hundreds to thousands of subjects need to be in an area in order for that to be sustainable. So maybe on some of these you could make the argument that it's just a one-off animal that sort of got lost in the lake. But the longer people have supposedly seen these things, the less credible their existence is. Trey the Explainer, who's a YouTube that talks about like paleontology and shit like that, has some really great videos on cryptids, and his Nessie stuff is, I think, pretty definitive. For most of these, when you go back to the source, you discover that the original accounts are very, very different from the modern accounts. So when people say, well, these things have been sighted consistently for however long, they very rarely line up like you would imagine they would. What was your other point, Dylan? You fucking tard? Oh, usually pop culture influences the way we see these lake monsters way more than we would imagine. Here's another thing about like Nessie and shit like that, is there's the famous photo of Nessie with its like head craned out of the water like a swan or some shit. We now know plesiosaurs couldn't do that. Plesiosaurs had almost no vertical give on their necks. They were very strict. They could kind of move like horizontally, but not vertically at all. So no plesiosaur would be able to move its head like that. And then some people are like, well, yeah, but like 65 million years, they could have evolved to be more like, to be more flexible and stuff like that, which, yeah, but at that point, you're making a lot of pretty long assumptions on what this thing is, when in reality, probably just doesn't exist.
Others also say that the creature could be a manatee whose tail was injured in a collision with a boat propeller.
Yeah, like when it's flopping in the water like that, I don't believe that at all. Most likely this is just someone with like a mermaid costume.
But closer examination of the video seemed to show that the tail indeed has 3 prongs. Verifying whether this video is genuine or not is proving to be a very difficult matter though, as there are no details on who shot it and where it was shot. One thing is for certain, the creature in the video is big as a dinosaur.
What type of fucking statement is that? Because there's no minimum size for a dinosaur. Fucking compies, the little green dudes in Jurassic Park, they're the size of like small dogs. This thing could be any size. It doesn't even look that big. It looks like it might be kind of long, but it doesn't even look particularly long because you don't get to see the whole thing.
We may very well be seeing a prehistoric plesiosaur that's been undiscovered for millions of years.
We're almost certainly not. And those weren't plesiosaurs, those were mosasaurs. Although I think the 2 species might actually be technically the same thing, so maybe that's me being stupid. But mosasaurs didn't really die out. They evolved into whales. That's what happened to those guys. They just, stopped being carnivorous and started filter feeding instead.
Number 7. A raptor in the woods. Thanks to Jurassic Park, raptors have taken front and center of our thoughts when dinosaurs are in the conversation. And if this video turns out to be real, then the movies are not the only place you will be able to see these vicious creatures. Originally uploaded to Real Paranormal Videos in 2016, this video claims to show a raptor running near the edge of the woods. It's difficult to see the creature in any great detail, as the creature moves rather fast and only appears on camera for a brief moment before disappearing behind a thicket of reeds. However, unlike most of the other videos we have today, the footage is actually pretty fair quality.
Not the relevant part. Like, yeah, I guess maybe the woods look nice in this, but the rest of it looks like shit.
If you zoom in on the creature, you can definitely see the resemblance to a velociraptor, the intelligent bipedal dinosaur seen in the Jurassic Park films.
For the record, I don't believe there's any evidence that Velociraptor was particularly intelligent. we have like a pretty famous fossil of a couple of raptors attacking like another dinosaur together, which implies intelligence, but that could also just that doesn't mean they were as intelligent as the movies show them to be. It just that's pretty basic stuff.
The video has caused mixed reactions from viewers. Some believe that it does show indeed a living dinosaurs, while others are more skeptical, suggesting that the video may simply be the work of a clever video editor. No.
Come on, Abel, come on. Go on, boy. Go on. I'll talk now.
Number 6. The Monster of Lake Champlain. Champ, or as the Monster of Lake Champlain has been lovingly called, is yet another one of those lake monsters who are believed to be dinosaurs who somehow survived extinction. Native American tribes living in the region have long told stories of a mysterious creature that lives in the lake, and more recently there have been over 300 reported sightings of the beast alone.
I mean, the problem with it is that you can throw those numbers out for anything and not back it up. Like, what is a sighting of the monster? That could literally be just a rock on the surface of the water. Like, if you look at the footage they're showing here, this could just be anything creating a wake behind it on a day where there's not much wind or water, so there's nothing to disturb the wake. This sort of gives the impression of like a serpentine body trailing behind it, but that's not necessarily true. That could just be the wake of an object in the water that's moving forward.
This video was taken in 2005 by 2 fishermen, their names being Dick Alfolter and his stepson Pete Baudet, and they were out fishing on Lake Champlain. At first, the video shows a long, snake-like creature swimming just below the surface. Later, the tail of the creature can be seen close to the fisherman's boat as it propels the beast through the water.
Are these all from the same This is retarded. Oh, you can't say that anymore, Dylan. I don't understand what they're showing here, and none of it looks like it's part of the same cohesive video. These just seem to be quick shots of other videos put together. I don't really know what's happening here.
The footage has been studied by 2 retired FBI image analysts who both concluded that it was authentic and had not been manipulated in any way, shape, or form.
Retired.
Many now believe that this video proves that there is some sort of prehistoric creature, possibly even a plesiosaur lurking beneath the surface of the lake.
What fucking video? I still don't know what I was looking at there.
While skeptics have since suggested that the photo may show little more than the top of a submerged tree trunk, it certainly hasn't deterred the many people who flock to the lake each year hoping to catch a glimpse of Champ. Number 5. McCullum Bebi.
So I know this one, and this is part of the one that I wanted to talk about, because I remember watching a pretty strong debunking of this one when I was younger.
The photo you're seeing is reported to be one of the only known photos.
This is a plank of wood. Like, look at it. So you see that little white thing kind of gives the impression as like the head is above the water and you're looking under it out at shit. That's the crest of a wave underneath this square plank of wood that's like bobbing up and down in the water. So here's the thing. I brought up earlier how pop culture informs how we see these things. Well, this is how you expect a long-necked dinosaur coming out of the water to look. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense is that it's silhouetted. Why is it silhouetted if it looks like the sun is in front of it?
Photos of the mysterious McCullum Bebi, which I'm pretty sure I mispronounced, but who knows, it doesn't exist, or does it? Well, either way, a lot of people believe it to exist. It's described as a large creature believed to live deep in the Congo Basin in Central Africa. In the local Lingala language, its name means one who stops the flow of rivers, and descriptions of the beast are very similar to a large sauropod dinosaur.
Okay, so here's the thing that I don't think people really understand, is that we actually can pretty consistently guess at what the biome that certain dinosaurs lived in was. Large sauropod dinosaurs tend to be found in the Midwestern United States. The Midwestern United States is a gigantic, flat plain. It has been, as far as anyone's ever been here. It has been, as far as we can ever tell. It used to be a seabed, I believe, and then at some point it's shifted and whatever. It's a whole bunch of shit. The point is, that's where they lived. They would not be able to live in a heavily forested area because they'd be too big. They wouldn't be able to navigate through all the fucking trees. The very thing that people say is hiding these dinosaurs is why they wouldn't be able to live here in the first place. They would have to live in a large open field. Almost certainly. This is not even to bring up the part where you would need to have hundreds or thousands of these things hiding in the Congo together in order to sustain a population of any size for any time, much less for 65 million years.
Stories of the mysterious creature were first documented in the late 1800s and early 1900s as Western explorers began to chart the area. The animal was said to be brownish-gray with smooth skin. It was about the size of an elephant with a long, flexible neck and a long, muscular tail like that of an alligator.
See, this is another problem. Like, sauropods were drastically larger than elephants. Almost all of them. I don't know of any sauropod that's, like, elephant-sized. Again, I guess you could say, like, well, they shrunk down because of evolution and shit like that. But that requires you to assume that this thing is real, as opposed to just, you know, a thing that people thought they saw through the brush, or just a story that they told the white people to get them to fuck off.
It was known to attack canoes that came near, killing the crew but not feeding on them. It reportedly ate nothing but plant matter, preferring a certain type of liana plant that had large white blossoms, milky sap, and apple-like fruits. Sightings of this rather gigantic monster continue to happen to this very day, although hard evidence of its existence have yet to be presented.
See, it's just shit like this. Like, hard evidence is yet to be presented. Of course there isn't hard evidence. Again, the further back the sightings are, the more evidence there should just be ambiently. You know, that's how you find shit in real life. This is how when scientists go out to look for something, they can kind of track it down by looking at the evidence that you just leave in your wake wherever you go. Because that's just what it means to be alive and influencing the world around you. That's why the animals we primarily find are small. That's why the animals, the new species we find, are predominantly small. Because their influence on the world is reduced, and in a way that we usually don't notice. But something as big as a brontosaurus would be impossible to hide from.
Number 4. The Tiny Raptor. Again, we're viewing a quite admittedly compelling video, but due to this video not having any background or sources, its veracity is very much doubtful. But then again, it's a very compelling watch either way. Originally uploaded to Real Paranormal Videos' YouTube channel in 2016, the video reportedly shows footage of a living dinosaur. Other than being filmed in Florida, we have no other information about the video. The video begins with hikers making their way through the wilderness. Their attention is drawn towards a small...
It looks like a cardboard cutout at like a carnival, like a little carnival shooting gallery, you know?
Cave up ahead, and then
you pop a little cork at it, and if you knock it down, you get nothing, because you don't win anything at those carnival games.
Strange creature runs past. It's only visible for a second, but if you slow the footage down, you can somehow see the creature looks similar to a velociraptor. We now know that velociraptors are about the size of a turkey and are...
Okay, that pisses me off so fucking much. We now know that velociraptor was about the size of a turkey. No. We have always known Velociraptor was the size of a turkey. We at no point thought it was bigger. We know it's the size of a turkey because we have its fucking bones. Its bones didn't shrink. They will always be roughly the same size. We've always known how big they were. So, well, why are they bigger in Jurassic Park? Well, there's a couple of reasons. One, Michael Crichton used a particular book to research carnivorous dinosaurs because it was the 80s and it was a lot harder to get, you know, your hands on research material and shit like that. In that book, they erroneously list Deinonychus as a relative of Velociraptor, as the two of them are being like the same breed, more or less. No one really believed that, even when the book was written. Deinonychus lived in the Midwestern United States, alongside T-Rex and Brontosaurus and most of the stuff you see in Jurassic Park. Velociraptor lived in China, lived in those regions, alongside Dilophosaurus and other smaller carnivorous dinosaurs. Although Dilophosaurus is actually fairly big compared to the one in the movie, but that's neither here nor there. So why did he change it? Why did he do that? Well, supposedly he thought Velociraptor was a more intimidating name than Deinonychus. I think he might have done it because he did not want people to be confused between the Deinonychus and the Dilophosaurus, because then they'd be asking questions like, why don't the Deinonychus just spit the fucking chemical goo at Alan Grant and them? It's like, oh, well, that was a different dinosaur, but the names are confusing, so whatever. The point is, Deinonychus is about 4 to 5 feet tall. It's about the size of a big dog. I have a Great Dane. He comes up to about like tit height. That's about how big Deinonychus was. In the movie, they decided to make them even bigger so that they could kind of look you directly in the eye. And thus, that's why velociraptors are abnormally large in the Jurassic Park movies. Because they're actually Deinonychus, which is still sized up, but not nearly as much. We've always known that. I hate this shit because it makes it sound like this person is part of the scientific community. Like, we now know, like, we all thought collectively this was wrong, but now we know better. No, the people who know this stuff always knew this was the case. You never knew this was the case until, until someone on YouTube told you were wrong.
Are covered with feathers. The footage is not clear enough to distinguish these details, and with that in mind, we can speculate.
What the fuck? This is stupid.
On two things. One is the creature is not a velociraptor and a different kind of dinosaur altogether. Or two, the video's fake.
It's fake. You're gonna tell me not only have these things been hidden in plain sight, away from modern civilization, for millions of years, for 65 million years, but then they're just sort of fucking hanging out in Florida, of all places? You can kind of get away with that in, like, the Congo, because the Congo's, like, off the grid. The people there who would maybe see it the most often, they're not going to have cameras. They're not going to be talking to the people who would publish this information very often. This is Florida. This is the first world, despite what the news may tell you about the people in Florida. These are civilized people. This would not be a once-in-a-while occurrence. Someone would have caught one by now.
Without more info, it's difficult to speculate further. Many believe that some smaller, faster dinosaurs may have survived undiscovered in the wild.
No one believes that.
However, as humans expand their living environment, this seems increasingly unlikely.
Into Florida? What the fuck are you talking about? Expanding it further into Florida? Where in Florida are there not people? There are people living under the swamps with the fucking crocodiles.
Number 3. The Montana pterosaur.
Jesus Christ.
Who knew that taking an innocent photo of what you thought was a bird would result into that photo going viral? That is
No one thought that was a bird.
exactly what happened in 2014 when a man claimed to have captured these remarkable photos of what he believes to be a pterodactyl. At the time, he was holidaying with friends on Flathead Lake in Montana. Initially, the man thought he was looking at an eagle, but soon realized that the creature was way too big to be a bird.
Oh, come the fuck on. That is a 3D model that is just moving left to right. It's not reacting to the environment at all. The way it's placed, like the angle it's flying at, doesn't make sense from the angle that they're taking the footage of. That's fake as shit. Don't even fucking try it.
Actually, the creature more closely resembles a pteranodon rather than a pterodactyl. It has a long, slender beak and a large, bony crest projecting from the rear of its skull. It also looks quite large, and fossil records show that an average adult male pteranodon had a wingspan of around 18 feet.
Fuck off. Stop sitting here and being like, well, actually, looks more like Y rather than X. Don't fucking sit here and pretend like you're an expert when you're the ones peddling this bullshit of dinosaurs still living today.
Could these photos actually be of a real-life Pteranodon flying over the skies of Montana? If so, how is it that it has managed to remain hidden up until now? Now it's time for the day's best pick. Today we're going to take a look at a photo...
Oh, look at this! This looks like a statue at a fucking children's playground.
...of something you wouldn't want to cross your path while driving. Number 2.
This is the best pick and it's number 2?
Dinosaur crossing. Today's photo shows what unmistakably is a Triceratops, one of the more famous plant-eating dinosaurs. And in the photo as well, you see the Triceratops causing a bit of a traffic problem as it crosses a road somewhere. Now again, I suppose the real question is, did this even really happen?
Of course it didn't happen, you fucking idiot.
And is this photo proof of it?
No.
Unfortunately, no. I found no source for this photo, which pretty much tells me that this is indeed a hoax. As a matter of fact, this isn't the only...
He said multiple times there are other videos in this video that don't have direct sources, but he treats them like they're still up in the air.
Dinosaur crossing the street hoax online. Take this video, for instance. If you pause the video at the right time, it looks like a tiny baby dinosaur is crossing the street, when in fact it's a Cody crossing the street.
Does not look like a tiny baby dinosaur. Like, a brontosaurus wouldn't move that fast. Its legs wouldn't jut out that far. That's just, like, common sense would tell you that.
It kinda makes this thing look like a tiny little dinosaur.
I saved the best for last, but first, I have a quick challenge that takes only 5 seconds to complete. If you can...
Why does this have a different voice dude now?
Leave a like and subscribe within the next 5 seconds, you'll get 10 years of amazing luck. Just try it. It really works.
What the fuck was that?
Number 1. The KGB dinosaur. During the Cold War, we Westerners knew nothing about the goings-on behind the Iron Curtain. If this next clip is genuine, then the Russians knew all along that dinosaurs still existed in modern times. This very brief video was uploaded to Amazing Mystery Videos' YouTube channel back in 2014, and it was reportedly filmed in Russia and kept hidden at the KGB headquarters for more than 3 decades. People who have seen the video think that the creature seen on the video might actually be some sort of ornithomimosaur, a type of fast bipedal dinosaur that existed during the Cretaceous period that resembled a modern-day ostrich. The creature certainly does appear to be a dinosaur. However, as there is...
I don't... Show the whole fucking video. This is clearly zoomed in, right? Is this supposed to be the footage? This is your number 1 pick?
little information available about the video, it's difficult to comment further on its authenticity. Whether or not the footage is genuine, we may...
Holy shit, that's stupid. That's stupid. There were other videos that were arguably, like, more definitive proof. This is asinine. This is absolutely insane. You have to be a total idiot to believe this shit. You look at some of their other videos, like aliens. Okay, well, maybe aliens could show up here and be skulking about. Like 10 mysterious things found frozen in ice. Well, shit gets frozen in ice, so maybe some of that's real. How can you even sit here and pass this off as if it's a real fucking thing? And like actually sit here and not have a joke? I watched a documentary where they interviewed this dude who was a member of the Viet Cong during the Vietnamese War. And he talked about... this fucking smug little cunny is talking about how he can run through the jungle doing like parkour and Tarzan shit. And the white man's bumping into everything like a pinball. Fucking crying about being a conscientious objector while this fucking Viet Cong are fucking trapezing around him. That's what it's like to be a dinosaur in like a wooded area. Imagine a T-Rex trying to make it through like even a mildly wooded area. Imagine how wide, like, try to get a car through a wooded area. That's what it's like for a dinosaur. That's what it's like for a moderately sized dinosaur. It's nearly impossible. So anytime someone's like, well, maybe they hide out under the thick brush, that's not happening. That's bullshit. That's fake. All of this is fake. All of this is stupid. Fuck off. I hate you. This sucks.